Alright, hello and welcome to FTL Faster Than Light. It's a roguelike game from 2012. I got it back when it first came out. There have been some changes, nothing too significant, but I think it's a very interesting game once you get into the mechanics of it, so I thought it'd be worth showing off. Not that I'm the first, but what can you do? So, you'll notice when you start a new game, the first thing you get to do is pick your spaceship. And as a new player, you'll only have this first ship, the Kestrel, unlocked, so we'll go ahead and try that. We can name it whatever we want. So, let's try something, atmospheric, immersive, get ourselves into the whole space captain thing. I think that'll do pretty well. After that, of course, we can name all our crewmen to our heart's content. We'll give them some fairly appropriate names. Close enough. Captain Walk-In here will lead our crew on its heroic adventure. There's a lot of stats here, a lot of different things you can see to start off. You can see the weapons, all their various abilities over on the right. You can see the actual ship stats down at the bottom. But you can't actually affect any of this before the game begins, it's just for your reference. So, really, once you've renamed your ship and crew, you're pretty much good to start. There's 3 difficulty levels. They're somewhat misnamed. As a roguelike game, FTL is incredibly punishing. So, if it's your first time playing, you'll probably want to pick easy. I think I can probably pick hard here and see if I can't die in the first of 8 sectors. Since this game has been updated since release, you now have the option to enable or disable the new content that was added in Advanced Edition pre-DLC. I think that was last year. That sounds right, 2014. Generally speaking, it adds some interesting new options. There's really not too much reason to turn it off unless you're opposed to some of the balance changes it makes, which you could well be. But that's an exciting conversation for another time. FTL has a bit of a story to it. The backstory is that you are a Federation ship attempting to bring vital information to the main fleet. But for the most part, this is really just to set up your space travels. The heart of the game comes in pop-up messages like this that you get throughout your travels. They're somewhat randomized, but not significantly. There's few enough that you'll get used to them eventually, but on your first time through, it's really very cool seeing all the different messages and getting that real space adventure feeling. So this is a fairly clean UI, but despite that, you can see there's a lot going on. And the first thing to understand is that each of these gray symbols on your ship, they are different systems on the ship. Some of them require a human crewman, others don't. For example, you will not be able to fly the ship without a pilot, at least not unless you have special upgrades that you can get later in the game. But on the other hand, your medical bay does not require a human crewman, it works automatically. There's also systems that can work on their own, but are improved by a human crewman. For example, shields, weapons, and engines will all perform a little bit better if you have a crewman working them. So to start with, we'll unpause, and in FTL you can pause the game whenever you like. All you have to do is hit space. It's very good for planning things out in the sometimes very frantic space battles. You can move your crewmen pretty much like a real-time strategy game. Just left-click and right-click to move. I think this is a pretty good setup. You'll, of course, need a pilot, and I think it's good to have an engineer to start working on your dodge chance. That's what engineering does. It affects how well you can dodge. And also having an engineer back there will allow us to fix the engines if they're taken out. If they're taken out in combat, then we won't be able to flee, which is a bad combination. As for the last guy, we only have 1 point of shield right now. We have 2 weapons, so I figure he's probably accomplishing more in the weapons bay than moving him over to shields. But I'll want to fill the shields as soon as I can find another crewman. The main mechanic of FTL is managing power, which is done in the bottom row here. You can left-click to add power into a system and right-click to take it away. Very easy to do. Of course, you take power out of a system, you will not gain its benefits. This can be a problem if you take power out of oxygen. You'll notice up here in the oxygen meter, the crew will immediately begin to suffocate. You've got some time, but it's not something you want to take chances with. We can depower weapons to put power into engines, for example. That's essentially the meat of FTL. Figuring out how to power everything, as well as which subsystems to destroy on your enemy ships, but we'll get to that soon. Another fun thing you can manipulate on your ship, you can open the doors. All of these doors work if you click them. There's also some fun buttons to open or close all the doors on your ship. And the reason this matters is that you can use doors to try and block out enemy borders, try and contain a fire, or vent your oxygen into space. Which sounds like a terrible idea, and often is, but is the quickest way to extinguish a fire. I think that about covers it for the real basics. The only other thing to note here is that we have resources up in the top left. A certain amount of fuel, missiles, and drone parts. We don't have to worry about drone parts now because we don't have any drones, but the fuel, we expend 1 fuel every time we make a faster-than-light jump, and we expend 1 missile every time we fire this Artemis missile launcher. The burst laser doesn't require any ammo, so that's something to consider. Up here, of course, we have our hit points, and over here, the scrap is the currency of FTL. The idea is you can use, spare parts you find drifting in space to fix your ship, or barter them for something else valuable. So you'll notice we just made a jump to a new beacon, and every time you make a jump like that, you will run into a random event of some sort on the other side. Not always combat, sometimes nothing happens at all, but most often it'll be some sort of information panel or decision, usually leading towards ship combat. So, the first thing we should do, once we accept that, is pause the game and take a look at what we're dealing with. Now, we had the bad luck to warp into a plasma storm inside of a nebula. These are environmental effects that are in place at certain beacons. They cause a variety of downsides. For example, because we're inside the nebula, we aren't able to see the inside of our ship. Our interior sensors aren't functioning. So if we don't have a crewman in a room, we don't have eyes. And because we're in a plasma storm, our reactor is only generating half its normal power. Which, if you'll notice, is that the engines, medbay, and oxygen are all offline. You can see why that's a problem and why you should be very careful moving into environmental events, because strange things can happen. Now, this is affecting the enemy as well, but that said, I'm not sure we actually have enough firepower to take him down. He's got a drone, but it looks like it can only shoot other drones. So, I think we'll be alright if we just sit here with the shields up, try and outlast that gun he's got, fire missiles through his shields, take out his systems. Right, so his laser there was stopped by the shield. Means we're in better shape than he is, because our missile goes right through his shield. We can just take out a few systems, I think we'll be in good shape. There we go, that's a good hit. Ooh, he did turn on that combat drone, though. That's never good. Take out his drone bay next. Perfect. He's trying to run. Gotta stop him. gun back on. I'm going to take power out of the shields, put it into the weapons. Ah, he's offered to surrender. He might jump if I don't accept it, so I think I will. And that's been a very quick run-through of a single FTL encounter. Hope you enjoyed. Feel free to check out the game if you're interested. It's a lot of fun.